Shalom YouTube family, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the family.
In today's video, we'll be discussing why we believe that South Africa is the best place for the diaspora to relocate. So let's get started. The first reason is that it's an easier transition from Western countries. So just the setup in South Africa is going to be more familiar to people from anywhere in the West, such as America, like where we came from. When we were in Tanzania, we met so many people that said that they wanted a more African experience in a less modern way. And then living that way was such a culture shock that many of those people returned to America. One of the first things that makes it an easier transition is the housing. So when you get here, you'll notice that the accommodations are more close to America, the way the places are built. For instance, when we were in Tanzania, it wasn't like insulated well. There were a lot of like cracks. Like you can have all the windows closed, all the doors closed, but a million huge spiders can still get in, huge lizards. Like we had these things that could just get in all the time.
Another thing would be grocery shopping, right guys? So in America, it's a little different from most African countries. In America, you have to go to grocery stores to get your items and they all have set prices on them and it's no negotiations. So I find that many people struggle when coming to Africa with that because they have to negotiate prices like for fruits and vegetables and things like that, which most people don't know how to do it that's coming from the West.
Right.
So coming to South Africa where it's more like the West in that sense, where there are set prices in these grocery stores, it'll make it a little bit easier when you first get to Africa to buy your essential items.
There are grocery stores in these other countries, but for the prices that you're gonna pay for produce and things like that, you're gonna wanna get those at probably one of the local markets. But in that scenario, you will have to negotiate, which is gonna be hard with the language barrier and you not actually knowing what the prices should be. And that brings us to the next thing that makes the transition easier. For those of us who want to be healthy and have supplements and things like that, we've met so many people who find it hard to find some of those things in other countries. But in South Africa, you can find the same herbs, the same supplements, all of those things, just at like health stores in the mall or whatever, but they have everything readily available.
And just things like electronics, if you're a person that wants to buy electronics or needs some of your electronics to be fixed, there's easy to find little stores that actually either sell or fix your electronics. So I know in other countries that we visited, if somebody breaks something, they can have a problem with getting it fixed. But to sum it up, things that you need are more readily available here more than any other African country that we've actually been to.
The next reason we think that South Africa is better for the diaspora is buying freehold land. So a lot of times people come to these different countries and they want to settle down, they want to buy land, they want to, have a farm or have their own place or whatever, but it's not as easy to do those things as you think. A lot of places you can't actually outright buy land. It's a 99-year lease. And then there are other places where to do even any of that, you need a local to be partnered with you. And like we've said in a previous video, we don't want to financially put up all the money to buy something and it's not just ours. We have to have this other person who may or may not have even put in anything to contribute to that financially. The next thing that makes South Africa good for the diaspora is the food. So if you're a person who likes to cook like we do, either out of necessity because you don't want to spend a lot of money like us or because you just prefer your own cooking, there were so many places where it was very difficult to find the things that we needed. Like even to just, when we first got to Tanzania, I wanted to make spaghetti just because I thought it was going to be quick and easy. Because, in America, you typically think, oh, I don't have anything to eat. Let's just make some spaghetti. That's real quick.
Get a jar of sauce. And
finding a jar of sauce, even just tomato sauce that wasn't seasoned or tomato sauce, just any of that was hard to find. The seasonings to make it taste the way that I would make it was very hard. And the first few things that I cooked, because of the ingredients that we had,
it wasn't as good.
They were not good. I was losing weight.
Also, if you're a person that likes to eat out, within South Africa, in our opinion, have some of the best food in the world, guys. And especially when it comes to things like local food, you can get things like braai, which is like barbecue, pup, which is like grits balled up. All of that stuff is good. I mean, it's seasoned to perfection, and I feel like our taste buds coming from America more so agree with the South African food here.
Right.
And then when you look at international foods, if you're a person that like Japanese, Chinese, or Indian, or whatever kind of food, they have such a variety of different foods here. So many different cultures and ethnicities that are in South Africa, so you can get that authentic food that you're looking for.
The next reason why it's good for the diaspora is it's cheaper. So it's cheaper than the West for sure. Way cheaper.
70%.
Like way cheaper. But also other African countries. Now, we've said that before. We say that, you know, South Africa is cheaper, and people are always like, oh, that's crazy. But like, even Kenya was more expensive, and people don't believe that. But for the everyday things, for getting rides, it's cheaper here. For buying groceries and things like that, it is cheaper here. And also, the housing really surprised us. The quality that you get for the price that you're paying is way better than a lot of places.
The next reason why we think South Africa is best for the diaspora to come move to is because there's no language barrier here. Most people coming from the West speaks English. And when you come to South Africa, that's pretty much where everybody's speaking also. Now, there are other languages and dialects here, but predominantly when you go into the cities, you're only going to pretty much hear people speaking English if they hear you speaking English, right? One of the issues we had when we first came to Africa is the language barrier, not being able to speak and negotiate with locals. So we had to get a translator pretty much, and basically have to put all your trust in that translator to negotiate for you. And some of these quote unquote translators are in on scamming you. So that was a huge issue for us, and just not having to deal with that in South Africa is a great bonus.
The next thing is that things are more structured, especially with, you know, government processes and things like that. There have been countries that we have been to where you can go to like immigration and they're like, okay, well, you need to do this, and then you go to this person and they're like, no, you need to do that. And then they're like, no, you do. It's like unorganized. It's like no one has any idea. And obviously me going, all I can do is see what it says on the internet. And I'm saying, okay, well, the internet says I need to do this, and this. And they're like, no, you need to do this, or no, you need to do that. Or there's some random fee because this person's trying to get paid. And like, it can turn into like a ridiculous hassle that is just too much for most people.
Also, we find trying to rent a house here a lot easier than most other African countries that we've been to. And those other countries, most times you have to have a real estate agent or dalali or whatever they call them in the country to actually find the property for you. And they really don't do much, but want a lot of money just to help you out a little bit.
Like a month's rent, 2 months rent, 3 months rent, it depends.
Stuff. And you really can't get past going through that process. Here, they have online websites where you can basically find places to rent, and you can speak to the seller directly. So I feel like that's a bonus.
So if you want to see a story about that and how dysfunctional it can be, check out our video. We'll put it up here at the top for you guys.
Go check that out.
Funny story, but it was irritating at the time. And the last thing that we think makes South Africa great for the diaspora is business opportunities. Even though this is a more Western country and they have so many things, there are so many untapped markets that are still here. So the possibilities are very endless when it comes to starting a business here.
And also, it's going to be much cheaper to start a business here opposed to starting a business in the West, right, guys? So take that into consideration. Your dollar is going to go way further here.
And there's a market for things here. There are people who can afford to get things. There's a higher standard of what people want. So you can present some luxury situation and more people will want that. As where in other countries, a lot of the like local people can't afford things. So when people come like in the diaspora and they're starting businesses, they're kind of only selling to each other because they're like,
foreigners,
they're trying to make money, which is making them price out the local people.
Right, and even if you're a person that your market is for foreigners, there's so many foreigners here that can afford to buy your product, so you still can be successful. And lastly, you would probably be able to get all the things that you need for your business. I know in some countries, people have difficulties with getting certain things for their business and have to get it imported in, which can be very expensive. A lot of things are made in South Africa, so a lot of things you can get right here in the country and not have to get it shipped in and spend all of that ridiculous amount of money. And even if you do need to get it imported in, it's still going to be a little bit cheaper than getting the stuff in the West.
And more seamless with the mailing situation in this country as well.
So family, we know South Africa isn't perfect by any means, but I feel like it's a good place to start if you're a person that's trying to move to Africa, just to get acclimated to Africa before going to another country. And with that being said, family, just want to say we love you and thank you for watching us all the way through. And as always, shalom.
Shalom.